everybody, it's Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy, and I'm excited you could join me today. I am anxious to show you two quick, simple Christmas cards using the Frosted Gingerbread Bundle, and I chose to use some of the greetings from the Christmas to Remember stamp set. I love this bundle. It is still available, but just for a limited time because it's in our July to December mini catalog. And it is on page 9. And remember, this catalog goes away at the end of the year, December 31st. And then we'll be putting out a new mini catalog as of July 3rd. So if you're interested, this stamp set is still available, and you can see it on page 9 of the mini catalog. We are going to be using more of the dies than we are the stamps for these cards, and also the designer series paper. And you can see mine are well used. These are the photopolymer stamps, so they do pick up some of the ink even though you clean them immediately when you're done using them, but it doesn't affect the way they stamp or the image that they stamp. And then these are the dies. The dies match the stamps so that you can stamp and also die cut them out. But then you also have these intricate dies that you can cut out. Let me pull them up for you. You can cut out a solid image and then use these intricate dies to cut out the designs for that image. So they can make really beautiful cards. So we're going to be using those today. I've done a lot of the prep work in order to cut a lot of the designs out. And what I used is the Gingerbread and Peppermint Designer Series paper. And I just want to show it to you, to show you with these, that these have images that you can fussy cut and use on your cards. But they also have the images that fit those dies so that you can actually place the die right on the design that you want. And let me pull one out for you. Here's the snowflake. You can actually place it right on there and then take it over to your cut and emboss machine and cut it out. The other thing with these is they're really easy to fussy cut. I did fussy cut some of the bells and the snowflakes just to see how easy they would be if someone didn't have a cut and emboss machine. So that's another option for you, but really beautiful papers. I just love the designs on these, and you'll see how I used some of them. And then, like all of our designer series paper, if you flip them over, you have some gingerbread designs that you can use on your cards. Another one that you can die cut or fussy cut out. So I'm going to set these off to the side. I'm also going to bring in my paper, and we're going to get started. So let's bring in the everything for our first card. Our first card we're going to make is the Merry Christmas, and I used the designer series paper, the bells. And what I also used on this is our Merry Melody embossed 3D embossing folder. I embossed the cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started with this one, and I'm going to set this off to the side. All of the measurements will be in the down below the video. Just click on it. It'll take you over to the website where it'll give you all the measurements, and then it'll give you even the directions for putting the cards together. This is a piece of real red, and the colors I chose match the colors that are in the designer series paper. And the gingerbread and peppermint paper have the colors cinnamon cider, early espresso, old olive, and real red. So this is real red. So I'm gonna, I've scored it at 4 1/4. This is 8.5 by 5.5. I'm gonna score it at 4 1/4, and I'm just gonna use my bone folder to burnish it real well so that it lays flat. Okay. And then I'm gonna run it through my cut and emboss machine because I want to emboss it with that Merry Melody. Now you can see, hopefully with this, that this is the front of the card where the little Stampin' Up sign is. And what I did when I did this is I took what would be the front of my card and I lined it right up on the crease with this black fold. So I'm gonna do that right now, and you can see that it's there. And then I am going to run over to my cut and emboss machine and run this through, and I'll be right back. And I'm back, and you can see that it's embossed. And this is going to be the front of my card. The next piece is we have, and again, I don't remember the measurements. I believe this is 2.5 and by 4 1/4. But again, they will be in my measurements down below. So all I'm going to do is put some glue on there, and I use the glue rather than the tape, just because with the embossing, I find the glue, for me, seems to hold better. So we're just going to add some of our multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to go ahead, and this is going to go right on the edge, and put that down. Now you can see that I've pre-cut some of the bells out of the paper that I showed you, that you can either fussy cut or you can run them through with your dies. And one of the things I did with the bells is I want to have them like one layered on top of the other. So I'm going to take a glue dot. Let me grab this bell. I'm going to take a glue dot and I'm just going to put it on the back of one of the bells. And then I'm going to overlap. Then I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper that I have here, and I'm going to set these off to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stamp. I'm going to use the Merry Christmas that is from the Christmas to Remember stamp set. So I pulled it, I think I pulled it out here. Here it is. And I don't know about you, but I really have a hard time stamping straight. So I tend to use my grid paper, and because of the way the stamps are cut, I try to line my bottom of my letters up on the bottom of a block, and then I pick up my stamp with that. And then I always test it on the paper before I stamp it on my cardstock, because more often than not, I'm not straight. So let's ink this up. Okay, and I'm gonna test it. And we're good. So for me, that's unusual. So I'm gonna use my grid paper to line up the paper I'm gonna stamp on. And then I'm gonna go ahead and stamp on here. So we're good there. And so we've stamped it now. And with this one, I use the seasonal die labels to cut it out. But this one, I'm just going to go ahead and use my trimmer in a rectangle. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this in. I'm just gonna go ahead and trim here. Then we'll trim off a little here. And I want to make sure it's straight. Here we go. So here is our label. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put the label on with dimensionals so it pops up a little bit. And I like to use 3 on this, because if it goes through the mail, I'm always worried about it flattening out. And I'm also going to attach my bells to this. So I'm going to go on here, and I'm going to just place my label on. Okay. And then I'm going to take my bells, and I'm going to put another glue dot on the back here, but I'm going to use dimensionals on the bottom, and I'll show you why. What I want to do is attach the top of the bells to my label, and the label's already raised up. So what I want to do is attach that glue dot right there and then place my bells. And I have a 4-inch piece of the real red satin ribbon. I'm just going to make a really flat bow. And all I do is put this through, just like you were going to tie your shoes. If I can grab it. Here we go. And then I just want that to be more like a little square knot or flat, so it lays flat on the card. So I just work it with my fingers until I get it as tight as I want, and I want to keep it as square as possible. So I just kind of work with it. There we go. And then I'm going to trim it off, and I'm going to put a glue dot on the back of it. I love these glue dots. If you haven't figured that out by now. And I'm just going to place it right on the top of the bells. There. And then I might trim this off just a little bit more. There we go. So that's the outside of our card. The inside of our card, I have a piece. I like to use Ace. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And with this greeting, I was going to use love and joy come to you, and may it last the whole year through. I liked that saying with the bells. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, I put mine down on the line to try to make sure it's lined up, and then pick it up with my block. And on this, I am going to use the real red ink again. Let's make sure here it's straight. And it is. I just didn't have enough ink on it. So let's re-ink that and line up my paper. And for many of you may stamp straighter than I do, but I really do rely on my grid paper. And then I'm just going to stamp. And you can go down. Now on this card, what I did was I took another piece of the designer series paper, and I just ran it along the edge. So we're going to do that now. And I'm going to do that with my glue, because I don't like to leave the insides of the cards blank. I just like to have them dressed up a little bit. And then I'm going to turn this over and just trim it off. And now we can put the inside of our card and adhere it to the card base. Lots of exciting things coming up with Stampin' Up! We have the new mini catalog that, as demonstrators, we are allowed to purchase from. It was starting December 1st. So I'll have a lot of card ideas and some of the, give you previews of some of the stamps that are in there in the next coming weeks. I'm actually waiting for my order to come in. And then it'll be available to all of you come January 3rd. Sorry about that. Here's our first card. So this one's Merry Christmas. So I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to bring in our second card. Here's the second card I did, again using DSP. With this one, I used the cork. So, but rather than use the cork this time, I'm thinking of beginning stampers that may not have a lot of supplies. So we're going to use designer series paper. I'm going to bring in my cardstock, and this again is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Again, I'm going to fold it on the score line and just burnish it with my, I guess with a stamp and my bone folder, just so it lays flat. All right, and I'm going to bring in the rest of our supplies for this. So with this, I chose to use 2 different designer series paper, one with the peppermints and one with the just almost like a gingerbread print, the icing print on real red. And with this card, I embossed the front with the subtle embossing folder. Now, the subtle embossing folder, I'm going to tell you a secret. This is one of my favorite embossing folders, and it is not in the catalog, but it is available right now for $6 on our clearance list if you go to the Stampin' Up! Website. And I love this folder because it can be used for anything. So I was surprised to see it on the clearance list because Stampin' Up! Just updated our clearance list and added a lot of products just this week. Again, with this one, I'm going to line up on the line, on my fold line, and I'm just going to run over to my cut and emboss machine and run this through. Okay, and I'm back, and I don't know if you can see, but it is very subtle embossing. You can see it also on this card, hopefully. So we're going to go ahead and these, I believe, these are 3 inches by 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my peppermints down, and then I'm going to cross my crossover on here. So let's apply this with our multi-purpose glue. Hoping you're all getting ready for Christmas. Busy time of year. I just got all my Christmas cards mailed for the first time ever that I got them done this early. And I've been working on them since about October. But there's still an opportunity to make a lot of cards. If there are simple cards you want to make and be able to send out a handmade card, which I think we've gotten away from mailing cards, and I just think it's so much fun on the holidays to send people cards and wish them a happy holiday. So there's our 2 pieces of designer series paper. And next we're going to stamp our greeting. And I'm going to stay with the real red. And that looks pretty good. So I am going to trim this off, and I'm going to die cut it with my die from the seasonal labels. I really love that. So let me run over and do that, and I'll be right back. Here we are. And I'm going to flip this over just so you can see. So again, with this one, we're going to use the Stampin' Dimensionals to put it on. And I'm going to put it right here. Now, while I was over die cutting this greeting out, I noticed that I got a little bit of ink on the edge. And normally I would take it off and start all over again, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'll show you how we'll cover that up. So again, with this one, I cut out 2 of the ornaments with the die cuts from the designer series paper, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the bells. We're going to use a glue dot and attach them. And I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back. And then I'll use a glue dot to adhere it. Now, if you like the video, I would love if you would give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would be honored in helping you with any questions that you have or any stamping needs, crafting needs. Just if you need a catalog, go to the website and just go ahead and click on catalog and send me a message, and I'll be happy to mail it to you. For my customers, your catalogs are in the mail and you should be getting them shortly. So with this, again, a 4-inch piece of the real red satin ribbon, and again, just working it to get a nice square as I can, knot, and then going to trim it off and take another glue dot, and we're going to adhere it to the top of the bulbs. we go. And then because I got a little bit of the red on there that I really don't want to just leave it, I'm going to take my pick tool and I'm going to use some of the holiday rhinestone basic jewels. Let's go to the red. So I'm just going to add a little gem there and maybe one over here. And I always like to use 3, and I try to put them in some form of a triangle. There we go. So there's our outside of this card. And then our inside, I'm going to use the greeting, may this be a Christmas to remember and cherish. So I'm going to take the stamp for the bells, and we're just going to stamp a half of a bell in the real red. And I don't want it too dark, so I'm going to stamp off lightly, and then I'm going to go over here and just stamp a half of a bell, and then we're going to adhere this to the inside of our card. So hopefully, now we've done 2 cards, and they were quick and easy, just using really the stamp set, the dies, and designer series paper. And again, this stamp set is leaving us at the end of this year. So if it is one that you like, or it's one that you want to make some Christmas cards yet with, I would recommend you ordering it. And I got ink on my hands and smeared this, so I will redo this when this is over and take that off. But here's our 2 cards. Here was the one that I made ahead of time and showed you, and there's the insides being stamped. And then here's our other 2 cards. Let's move these off with using designer series paper and the Merry Melody embossing folder. So I hope you enjoy these. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Again, help me grow my channel. And I'll be back real soon with some more cards. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Explore your love of stamping and paper crafting.